Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of Making Zak the Ripper. So this week we're going to jump into casting and the whole process of casting and everything that's evolved around that. So I thought I'd just start us off with just talking about your experience of casting. Two questions really. What has been your experience with casting, and how have you cast in the past, and why is casting so important to you?
How I cast in the past, I tend to. I've used Mandy. We used Spotlight for this, didn't we? Initially to go out just for the sort of smaller parts in the film, and to be fair, some of the larger parts as well. Uh, so yeah, in previous work, I've always used Mandy, and so then go back out for self tapes after the initial sort of influx of what's often a lot of applications. Yeah, I mean the self tape thing, obviously, in the last since COVID moved away from in person auditions, it makes our lives easier. The fact that we can see tapes, but I know it's a lot of actors would rather get in a room with a director and work with them. But I think that that's how I've cast most of my stuff. But often I like to go back. I've often gone back to people I've worked with before. This is happening quite a lot on Zak the Ripper because just trusting an actor is really important, and often it's such an interesting process, the self-tape process as a writer, because you can write a piece of dialogue and some people just absolutely get it. They get the way you speak, they understand my rhythms, and it works. Some people just don't, and it's no fault of anyone's other than uh, you know it's just again a bit of luck really, and you can sometimes meet that right person. And the film we made, Fright, the previous one, I gave Gwyneth, who's our lead in Fright, the gig just on the back of a 1 minute tape. As soon as I saw her tape, I thought, give her the job. That amazing. So yeah, so that's that. And obviously, with Zak the Ripper, it's been slightly different because we've tried to get some more, sort of named actors in, which has been an interesting process, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting for me watching you work and then us working together with the casting process because I used to act, so I've been the other side, and then seeing it from this side and actors, putting their applications in. And I think one of the things that really struck me was the volume of
Yeah.
applications to go through, and you want to give as many people as you can the
Well,
opportunity to
yeah,
show what they
it's
do.
it's really hard on with Spotlight. We signed up for Spotlight for this, and we put out uh, six parts on Spotlight, and we had I think 11,000 initial replies for six parts, and it's frightening because you've got a part, you've got a role, and then you've suddenly got 2,000 thumbnail-sized images to look at. So you're literally just going no, 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 which is awful because you might be missing out on all sorts of amazing talent. But you could literally go on that tiny headshot and pick out the ones that you kind of feel are interesting. And obviously, as a writer and director, I sometimes feel a little unfair on actors. I have to try and keep an open mind because these characters have been in my head for like a year. Well, I was at the Ripper 3 years. Have been in my head. What they look like, how they act, how they speak, and so I have to, when I'm going into the casting process, I have to really step back and think, okay, just don't let that preconception mean that everyone we send they all look exactly the same. So I try and we've tried, and I think we didn't we? I think we saw a lot of tapes. Zak the Ripper.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and it's interesting seeing how different actors interpret,
Mm.
different parts of the script that you send them to do self tapes, and we kind of go down that stage. But it's just, yeah, there's a lot of people to look at, and then from my side, it was kind of that fear of if there's an amazing person here that somehow slips through, and
Yeah,
I guess that kind of has that the initial kind of fork in the road is, do you go down the casting director route or do you do it yourself? And we
yeah,
did talk about casting directors and their expertise, their talent, and their
yeah,
ability to know kind of actors that would be suitable and at the right sort of level. So there was that. We ultimately we dismissed that because at the time the budget wasn't there. We as we said in a previous episode, we started to try and cast it before we had finance in
yeah,
place. So it was attaching cast to help with the
yeah,
finance to some degree as well. That was kind of the thinking.
yeah,
But then working with, well, I remember us drawing up spreadsheets and having a wish list of actors that we'd like for the main parts. And that list constantly was evolving and changing, and then us kind of saying, yeah, are we being ambitious enough? Are we being too ambitious? Should we approach them? Should we not? I think I was always of the mind of, well, all they can say is no, so nothing ventured, nothing gained, and we kind of sort of proceeded on that sort of vein and just approached actors with the right. Because I felt, looking at your background with the Bromley Boys and having written that, and you had named people in that, that there was already credibility built, and
Yeah.
what projects we'd done previously, that we weren't going with no track record and just saying come and be in our film. There was a track record to look at, so that obviously did help with the
Yeah.
conversations with agents as well. But it was, yeah, talking to agents has been interesting as well, hasn't it? Sort of
Yeah.
understanding kind of where they're coming from.
Yeah, and look, yeah, working with agents is a massive part of this job, and you have to. They've got a job to do. We've got a job to do, and so it's a matter of just trying to nurture those relationships, which can be, it can be tough and it can be challenging, but particularly on a smaller budget project where. But again, like, as you say, having the Bromley Boys behind me, I think, kind of helped, and obviously with Tiff, who was, again, it kind of sometimes things just connect together and it just feels right. She was on our list.
And
So I'm a
that's
huge
Tiff Stevenson
Tiff
for the audience. Yeah.
Tiff Stevenson. Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
I'm an enormous fan of People Just Do Nothing. Me and Kath watched it over and over again. It's one of my favourite comedy shows. I think it's superb. And Tiff plays Tanya, who is Misha's boss at the Lavender, and she's very funny. And so she was on our list to play Sarah, wasn't she, Zach's ex-wife? And so, and again, one day, this is mad, on Instagram pops in, you're being followed by Tiff Stevenson. So I thought, well, that's mad. That's just a crazy thing. So I immediately got hold of Tiff and said, I imagine you followed me out of error. but 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 here we are, and talked to her about the project. She said that she'd love to do it and play Sarah, and then again in talks with her agent, who's been lovely, uh, Ellie, said, look, she'd be really interested in taping for Zoe, the lead female part. So Tiff kindly taped for that, and I just immediately, as soon as I saw that tape, I was kind of fingers crossed before the tape came in that it was going to be great. I kind of knew it would, and it was. So Tiff, as we're so happy to have her on board, and you know, and it's kind of she's helped us out with contacts with agents and contacts with other people, and obviously we've got Richard Herring, who was a huge, I was a huge fan of his in the '90s when I was sort of my early comedy days, and he's just great. I've listened to thousands of episodes of his podcast, and I'm a big fan. So having him on board to play the detective is amazing. And last week, obviously, we announced that we've got Jack Skipper, and Jack, he pops up on, I'd imagine, most people's timelines. His stuff on Instagram and TikTok. He's very, very funny, and he's someone who there's a role in the film. And I thought about it about a month ago. I mean, I mentioned it, didn't I? About a month or two ago, I said, "How about Jack Skipper?" And we kind of thought, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe we should approach." And then, yeah. So Tiff, I think, met him at a gig, and mentioned what we were up to, and it's kind of gone from there. And yeah, incredibly happy to have Jack on board because I think he's very funny, and yeah, can't wait to work with him. So yeah, all in all, our little cast, and obviously we mustn't forget Cy Thomas, who. That interesting story with Cy is that he's our lead playing Zach. And when I wrote this sort of 3 or 4 years ago now, he was in my mind because I worked with Cy 20 years ago on a TV pilot we did about football, a sort of mock documentary about a football club. And I loved what he did there. But that's such a long time ago. And I've never worked with him since. I've never found the right project to work with him again. So it's really exciting to be working with Cy on this.
Yeah.
Really exciting.
Yeah, Sai's absolutely brilliant. I watched that documentary, the mockumentary that you did, and
Okay.
yeah, Sai's brilliant in that, and I can definitely see why you were thinking of Zach as you were writing it for him. And yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm really proud of the cast we've got in terms of the main roles, and I think they're all going to do a stellar job, and I think it's going to really just be great fun to work with them all. So I'm really looking forward to that when we get on set. I kind of broadly more about the rest of the cast. I think one of the things we both, as film fans and watching films of all sorts of different budgets, is that the smallest part can take you out of a film if the actor isn't right,
Mm.
isn't cast in the right way, isn't right, or isn't for whatever reason. And you've mentioned this, and I've been thinking it as well as we've been going, that every part that we do, whether it's just a one line or it's the main character, they have to be believable. They have to convince. They have to not jar the audience out of that very very what's the word I'm looking for? That basically. Oh God, I can't get my words out. Suspension of disbelief.
Mm.
It's a very fragile thing, and it
It
can easily
is,
be
yeah.
broken. And when you casting actors, we're always thinking, okay, is this person going to be convincing? They're good at what they do, and are they going to work for that role? So I suppose the reason that the long way around I'm trying to say this is that of course it's incredibly important to get your main cast correctly, but equally it's just as important to get the person who comes in for one day and says
Yeah.
two lines and does a great job as well, and attention to detail across all of those castings are
Yeah, and
really, really
I
important.
think we've got some great people. I think hopefully when people see the film in a year or so's time or whatever, there's some lovely, lovely little cameos, lovely little sort of ensemble cast of characters that you know that we've got. And I think again, going right back to the start, when we talked about the Mandy and Spotlight stuff, is that often how it works with me is that I'll see someone and they go to like the top of the league, and then everyone else has got to try and beat them. And if that person happens quite early on, it can be quite an interesting process, which has happened a couple of times with Sarah, who is playing Irene Horsebrass, who's a lady Zak delivers some stuff to in his job. She's just so funny, and she was one of the first ones we saw. And I just thought, well, we can stop this now because we've seen this, and that's it now. That's done. She's cast, but of course, you've got another 25 tapes to see. But I always feel it's a bit unfair because people have got, but then you never know. Often, going back to Fright, I'd basically in my head cast the lead, and then Gwyneth's tape came in last, and right there she is. So I think I've got a decent eye for it for casting, and I think I can't wait to see it all come together. And like you say, man, again, There's several people who I've worked with before, and who I just you can. It's good to have that. It's nice to test yourself with working with new people, I think, but also it's good to have people who you really trust around as well. That's what I
Yeah,
would say.
absolutely. One of the other elements with casting was around, whilst we won't go into specific detail around remuneration for any of the cast, approaching people who've got profile, where do you start that negotiation point? And then also managing schedules, people who are very busy and they've got lots going on. You created this amazing spreadsheet schedule document that is something to behold.
Like, yeah, if I never see another, yeah, when you've got a cast of, well, I think one about 25 is the cast, and obviously you're dealing with some people who are busy, and they have got, we're shooting in September, so you'll get a kind of an email from their agent saying that they can't do the 10th to the 13th, 21st, 28th, and 30th. You'll get someone else's will say they can't do and so you've just got this massive spreadsheet with lots of red dots on it, and then you've got to try and weave your shoot in amongst those red dots, and yeah, quite a challenge, but I think we're there. I don't want to,
Yeah,
jinx that. Yeah, because again, what's mad with it is that it's there now. It's this incredibly fragile thing. It sits there on my screen. It's there. It's working. Every scene we need, everyone's there. But of course, it needs one person to sort of say, "Oh, I can't do the Wednesday now," and the
yeah.
whole thing can fall apart. So, I might just not answer another email from an agent now. That's it, done.
So just go
Ignore them.
silent.
Yeah, ignore them.
It's a house of cards, isn't it?
It really
Just
is.
go over. But the other thing I was going to mention was that it's been interesting learning for me sending contracts to agents actually as well, and what's included. We'd had previous contracts that we'd used as reference. We had other sources for reference as well to make sure we contained a lot. And then obviously with AI now being such a
Excellent.
huge part is how actors images are protected, and what if anything can be done with AI and the tools there, and having all of those different sections within the contract. So I suppose it's a bit of sort of granular detail, but
Yeah,
it's learning
it is.
what agents are going to ask, and what needs to be in a contract to make sure they're protecting, as they should do, their client's image, and it's all watertight in that contract. So that was different iterations of contracts that we've gone through. So I think now we've kind of come out that end with a much tighter idea of what needs to be in a contract. I'm sure that'll evolve as things change as well. But yeah, that's been another learning as well. So
yeah, well, one other quite nice one in the cast. It's not strictly the cast, although she's going to appear in the film. Is Nell Davis, who we in the script, Zoe and Zak, two leads, were in a band in the 90s. That's kind of how they know each other. And I'd always kind of had this idea that there might be a song in the end credits, that we might be able to find a song that was their song in the 90s. But nothing ever came up, and we were sort of looking at where you could get that song from and how we would afford that. And I was flipping through Instagram one morning, and Nell Davis popped up, just sort of like a indie female singer, just so cool, and I loved it so much. The little video I saw, the 30-40 seconds of it, and I just thought, that's it, that's the song, there it is. And so again, the joy of the internet. There's lots of faults with the internet, but that is one of the joys. Is that I got hold of her on Instagram and just sort of said, explain what we were doing, and just told her what I loved it, and we chatted that Saturday afternoon, and yeah. So now her song is the song, and will be the end credits, and all from just that Instagram thing. So it's kind of a nice story there, and and you can see the song we're going to use again on the website. The End of the World or whatever it's called, and it's fantastic. And Nell is incredibly helpful and lovely, and she's going to come up and do a little bit with us on the shoot. So that's quite a nice casting story.
Yeah, it's great. It's lovely. It's lovely that you found her, and she's brilliant and fantastic, and it's a great addition to the film. So yeah, it's a really well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we do with that and put it in the film. So yeah, it's great. So yeah, I guess my closing reflections on casting is that it's been really interesting, really exciting, a lot of learning, and just ultimately delighted with where we've ended up with our cast, and really looking forward to working with them. And it's it's going to be a lot of fun. You directing them and us as producers working with them.
Yeah, from my point of view, it's a real privilege, because obviously I love comedy. I'm a massive comedy fan. I love British comedies. It's just part of my life, really. And to be in it and directing and writing with these guys and with the whole ensemble cast as well, it's a real privilege, and I cannot wait to get cracking. It's nerve-wracking and exciting, as it should be, and hopefully we can make something really funny.
Well, we've got a day booked in London in July for rehearsal, where we're getting not all but most of the key players in the cast together to work through scenes, which is going to be really exciting. Which we'll document and share some of that as well as these episodes progress. But and I think that's it from my side. Next week we're probably going to be talking about a variety of different subjects. We haven't actually nailed down what we're talking. It's probably going to be about crewing and locations and more the sort of production side of Zak the Ripper, but loads more still to talk about. So I think that's Brilliant. It. Thanks for sharing your reflections on casting.